Do you know Induction Man, Induction Man, Induction Man? Do you know Induction Man who lives at Restop Lane? Okay, so we're on another episode of Inductance for AP Physics C, Electricity and Magnetism. What we're going to talk about today is self-inductance, and it's going to build off of what we've just talked about with our solenoids and how they act as inductors. So if you watch the solenoid video and you're looking at some of those final equations, you could pretty easily write that the flux linkage, N times the magnetic flux, can also be equal to the inductance of your solenoid multiplied by some current. Okay, so this is kind of an equation we have here as kind of a first principle. What we can also write, so we can write this and we can write that an EMF for induction can be thought of as the negative derivative of the B flux dt. And what this would also mean for us then is if we carried this idea forward, we could see that this means that the EMF for an inductor would equal the negative, because of Lenz's law, and in our case we won't just have a flux, we'd have a flux linkage. So if we bring that down, this would be D, then it's going to be N flux, so the flux linkage, dt. So that makes sense there. But what we can also do is we know that this N flux is equal to Li. So we can actually say that this is equal to negative times the derivative of Li dt. Now, the inductance is a physical property of your inductor. If we go back real quick and just take a look at our equation for a solenoid, if we bring this L back over to the other side, N is a turn density. That's physically like how you built your solenoid. A is a cross-sectional area of the loops. It's how you built your solenoid. And L is what is the length of your solenoid. So it was all dictated how you built the thing. Like your inductance is a property of your object. So if we take this constant and we pull it out, we can actually see that we can get the induced EMF on an inductor as just the negative L di dt, change of current in an amount of time. And that's a really powerful thing for us right here. What this means is kind of an interesting thing here. Imagine for a second we have some solenoid. So here, let's just build a solenoid in black. Here's the solenoid. So there's a solenoid there. Initially, there's no current running through it. Your circuit's off. There's nothing going on there. When you run a current through this, okay, let's say the current's kind of going around like this. If you run a current through it, you're going to get a B field that's generated. And that B field's going to point this way, down. Well, you had no B field, and now you have a B field going through these loops. That means you've generated a change in flux. And we can say that, hey, look, your current was 0. Now your current is something. Your current has just changed. You have a change in current. You're going to generate an EMF. And this EMF that would be generated here actually needs to oppose the current that came in initially. So we're actually going to generate an EMF that's going to go around the other direction for the current. So this is the current induced by the inductor. And that means we are going to self-induce a current acting in the opposite direction. So this is what's known as self-inductance. Just because you had nothing and now you've started the current going in the system and you've got current running through the solenoid, it's going to generate a B field, and because that amount of magnetic flux has changed now, we now are going to induce a current that's going to oppose the current initially in the system. So it's kind of a weird thing that's going on here, but it is happening. And if we have a second part of this, so sometime later you turned the current off, or the system off, so you had no more current. Well, now you have no more B field. You don't want to lose the B field going down, so you want to generate a B field going down. And when you generate a B field going down, that means you're going to induce a current in this direction, which means you're going to induce a current going down here whenever you lose your power source up here. So it's kind of a neat thing that you're going to get like a flip-flopping current whenever you add it in there and then whenever you take it away on these inductors. So kind of a wild idea. What we're going to do is in our next videos, we're going to take a look at these inductors and how they're inducing currents in this way for RL circuits. These are resistors and inductors, and we're going to see what happens there in these systems. To do that, we'll need some Kirchhoff loops. So if you forget your Kirchhoff loop stuff, go back and check out those old videos for the AP Physics 2 Kirchhoff loops. So we'll be able to use those. And it would probably be in your best interest to check out the RC circuit videos as well. One, you'll need them for the AP Physics C class. And two, we're going to see a very similar derivation that we've done previously, but for the RL circuits. But for right now, this idea of inductance is finished. This here is the equation that we need, and this is kind of what's going on with it. But for right now, like I said, we're finished. Adios, and y'all take it easy.